Cass. Welcome back to my channel. This month is quite exciting, so I'm setting up my April bullet journal, but it marks this month officially 1 year since I made my very first map cover page, which was Shadow and Bone back in April. Now, a lot of maps have been drawn between then and now. I've got a little bit more experience, I could put cartographer on my resume. But what I'm saying is I've drawn a lot of maps, so I kind of found a style that I prefer to draw in. So this month is the very first month where I'm straying away from what the map in the book looks like and putting my own twist on it. And the book series that is actually based off of this month is Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It's a fantasy romance series, and it is quite good. My friend Lexi recommended it to me, and we've been reading kind of side by side. And the new book was just released, so I thought, what perfect timing to do this as a theme. But enough babbling, I'm going to go ahead and start planning. Hello, and welcome back to yet another bullet journal setup. Like I mentioned in the intro, this has been a whole year of me making maps, and it has been very fun to discover a style that I enjoy and to spend God knows how many hours creating these maps. But I really do enjoy creating them, and this map, as well as my March map, which was Crescent City, will be available on my Etsy shop very soon. I'm just waiting for the prints to actually arrive. So that is the fun, exciting news. But now talking about the setup. Now this is sped up by 5,000%, but it was definitely one of the more therapeutic maps for me to create. I sketched most of it in a coffee shop or at the library, so super peaceful, and I just got in my art zone and sketched everything out. I don't really have much to say about this map. It is definitely much more simple than some of the other maps. However, I found in drawing the map and writing down all the locations and such, when I was actually reading the new book, The War of Two Queens, I found that I could actually imagine where they were going a lot better, because me just looking at the map, I would have to constantly flip back and forth, but most of the time I didn't really do that because I didn't really care. However, since I drew this out, I remembered where a lot of the locations were, so when they were talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I know where that's at, because I drew a forest near it or whatnot. Also, the forest design was a pain in the ass to do. I regret, well, I don't regret, but it definitely took forever, and I had to use a 0.03 fine liner to make all those itty bitty trees. But my favorite part was definitely doing the ocean outline that I'm doing right here, because I just used my Tombow Kudenowski calligraphy pen. And I guess I should mention the supplies that I used. For the fine liners, I used Artist Loft, which is a Michaels brand, and they are cheap and they work as well as you can expect fine liners to, and I have to replace them about as often as I used to have to replace the Picker Microns. They're just cheaper, so I like them more. And then the Tombow Kudenowski pens I figured out I can get from Amazon fairly cheaply, so that was super dope. And then I'm drawing the border here, and this was inspired by the design on Poppy's dagger, and it was a headache to sketch, I'll be honest. Moving on to my calendar. A lot of these pages are very simple, and I actually didn't add any color for this setup. I went with just black and white, so just my fine liners and my black brush pen. But right here I'm doing the Crown's Insignia, which is the sword and the arrow crossed with this sort of antlery loop. And then these leaves are a prominent part of the cover of From Blood and Ash, and so I drew a bunch of leaves everywhere too to fill space. And this is me just drawing it. I really hate voiceovers. I never really know what to say once I've discussed the basis of what I'm doing. I'm drawing in a corner, and now I'm erasing. I did decide to push back together my calendar squares. I think in my last setup, all my calendar squares ended up being individual boxes versus this bigger grid, and that's kind of time consuming, so I went back to just doing a big grid like this. I lettered April down the side, and there was no special font that I used. I did use sort of inspiration from the font on the covers of the books, but it was very basic Times New Roman and serifs. I used this sort of fancy font, I don't even know what it's called, to print out stickers for the headers for the weekdays, and then numbered out the calendar. And then the quote I chose for the bottom because lots of empty space down there. It reads, "You're an absolutely stunning, murderous little creature," which is something that Hawk says to Poppy in From Blood and Ash, which is the first book. I'll be honest, I was going to add color to this spread. However, the prominent color is red, like those are the colors of the leaves. However, I just did a Crescent City theme where the entire journal theme was also red, and I didn't really want to use red back to back, so I just decided to stick to black and white. Look at me go, just right in the calligraphy. And then filling in all the letters. I didn't make a sticker sheet, and I don't regret it per se. It would have made my life a little bit more simple. However, I would have had to create the sticker sheet, and I did not feel like doing that. However, I did create stickers for the headers of my trackers, my habit trackers, because once I discovered that I could do that, and that, hey, I have a sticker business, I can just use all of those supplies to make headers for my own journal. It was such a time saver because my least favorite part of setting up my journal was doing all of the headers because it would take so long since I track an excessive amount of habits. So being able to just type it out on the computer and then print and cut, such a lifesaver. Some more of those leaves that I was talking about earlier, and then this sort of design right here with the dragon and the crescent is actually found on the cover of the new book, which is the one that I mentioned earlier, The War of the Two Queens. And I decided on that design simply because the fourth book was just recently released, and this whole setup was kind of to celebrate that release. So that's why I did that. And then the quote I chose says, "Only the bad can be influenced, princess," which is another Hawk quote to Poppy. Then you can see me sticking on all my stickers, which is my favorite. And I did change up a few of my habits that I'm tracking. Like, I want to track when I get 8 hours of sleep. So don't be surprised if that box is empty. And then I am tracking my Curology when I do my Curology stuff, because I finally have a skincare routine, which is so nice and something I should have done like years ago. Fun fact, I'd never had one before until now. Then are my two most basic pages but most used, and that is my finance tracker and my highlights. So super simple pages. I just did the headers and then threw some leaves around. My finance tracker is pretty basic. I just have two columns where I just keep a running list of all of my finances, my earning and my spending. And then at the very bottom, I have a section where I divvy off for savings. So I have savings for my apartment, savings for emergency, savings for actual like retirement savings, and then I have money set aside for any car thing, so gas and any car troubles I might encounter. And then I have a category that says trip, which is basically I want to travel and I am just dumping money into my trip savings, so when I do travel, I have a little travel budget that I can follow. Then my highlights is super simple, and it's basically a one line a day. I just write the best thing about my day, and it's one line. Again, super simple, super basic, and obviously I need a lot of room, so it's not super aesthetic, but functional. And here's the final look at my April 2022 bullet journal themed around Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I enjoyed doing the black and white. As many of you know, I am terrified of color. However, I'm going to have to face my fear eventually, but not this setup. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the very end. It literally means the world that you stuck around this long, and if you did make it this far, let me know your favorite character from the Blood and Ash series, and if you haven't read that book series, let me know your favorite book couple. I think that would be kind of a fun little question. My personal favorite character from the Blood and Ash series is definitely Sarah, which is from the prequel series, technically. A Shadow in the Ember. I really love Sarah. She's such a badass. And then as for my favorite fictional couple, Alice and Will from Ranger's Apprentice and Percy and Annabeth from Percy Jackson. I'm just saying, though, especially Percy and Annabeth, they are the OG couple, okay? First ship ever. Okay, I am gonna shut up before I make this video any longer. If you like the video, please do give it a like, and if you want to see more bookish or journaling content, it would be really cool if you subscribed, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Toodles!